Like this is an act of war. But you know, if they can't even make gasoline for themselves, how can they possibly be a threat to us? But it's, once again, it's to stir up the fear. You know, what should we do to prevent this from happening again, since it happens over and over and over again? How many times have we gone to war without a declaration? Why don't we just follow the Constitution and make sure the Congress declares the war before we go to war? Maybe then we'll be committed, we know who the enemy is, and we know where the end point is. We've been in Afghanistan now 50% longer than World War I and World War II put together, and there's no signs of us coming home. The debate now going on is, how many more troops are we going to send over? 20,000 or 40,000? We elected a president that was running on as a peace candidate. He was going to bring troops home. Oh, sure. He brought a couple thousand home from Iraq, sent many, many more thousand of contractors over, and now he's sending a few more military back. That war isn't ending, and they're getting ready to send more troops into Afghanistan, stirring up trouble with Iran, and bombing Pakistan. It makes no sense whatsoever. The burden falls on us, on the people, on the taxpayers, on the next generation. At the rate they're going, they're liable to reinstate the draft, and that we should never permit. But in Afghanistan, the same thing continues and continues. Every time we go over and we drop a bomb, we'll hear, okay, we killed 15 terrorists. Maybe we did. But we killed 15 foreigners, I know that. And every single family then has a religious obligation to kill an American. So if we ever want to have peace, and if we ever want to be more safe and more secure and not waste our energy and waste our resources and bankrupt this country, what we have to do is we have to look to the founders for an idea about the proper foreign policy. The proper foreign policy under the Constitution is non-intervention and mind our own business. So that means we would bring our troops home from the Middle East. We would come home from Iraq. We wouldn't be sending more troops to Afghanistan and stirring up war in Pakistan, trying to fight with the Iranians. But we'd do more than that. We're broke. Our national debt's going up $2 trillion this year. We're broke. We don't have the money. We can't borrow much more. Matter of fact, the foreigners are lending us money a lot slower these days, but we're printing the money. But I say, to get to the bottom of this, I don't propose that we cut child health care right now, even though that's not the proper way to deliver child health care, and there's a better way. But I say, don't go after child health care or the elderly care for the elderly. I say, bring all the troops home from Japan and Korea and Europe. Whether it is domestic spending or foreign affairs spending in the military, none of it could happen if you had sound money. If they had to collect every penny they spend on the welfare state and running our empire, and they came to you and taxed you, your tax would be 50 or 60%. Who knows? The revolution would get a real boost, I'll tell you that. Because the people couldn't pay it and wouldn't pay it. So it is nothing more than deceit. It's the use of a technique called counterfeiting, and it will lead to destruction. We have now brought the financial system down. The financial system is in chaos and continues to be. This nonsense that it's over with is just that. It's nonsense. But the next shoe to fall is not just maybe commercial property and a few other things. The next big thing to fall is the dollar. You just can't print dollars the way we are and maintain the dollar, and the collapse of the dollar will be a mixed blessing, because I think what will happen is the continuation of the loss of credibility in Washington will, be epidemic. Nobody will believe anything they tell us anymore. And also they will say, if you're sending us checks that bounce, it's about time we quit sending you any money at all. So often what they do is they start with small amounts, incrementalism. Medical care is the same thing. Incrementally increasing the role of government. Education. Start back in the 50s. Before you know it, they totally control our schools, and now they're moving up from 65% control of medical care to even more. But it's always incrementalism. Now, when they introduced the income tax, of course, that was a bad year, the same year they gave us the Federal Reserve. But they said, don't worry about it. It's only the wealthy people, the people who made $100,000, which is a tremendous amount of money, and only be 1%. Now, let me tell you why it's bad to concede, whether it's a little bit of here on food stamps or a little bit of foreign intervention. Yeah, non-intervention overseas sounds good, but on this occasion we have to do it. Because once you give it up just a little bit, like 1% of your income tax, let's all pay 1%. That means you've given up 100% of the principal. The ideas are count. That's why it would have been real nice if they had put it in the Constitution that we could have no deficit financing. But once you can have a little bit, you can have a lot. Once you can print a little bit of money, they print too much. But the good news is the credibility has been lost already to a large degree. People are sick and tired of what they're getting, and I say that is good news, because they're directing their attention to Washington and their representatives in Congress, and I think that is very healthy. But we still have a long way to go. Where I'm optimistic is when I go to the universities and talk to the young people and go around the country, because something is indeed stirring. It's very important that we know and understand what liberty is all about. But it's very important also that we understand that in Washington, we haven't gained a whole lot yet. We're still losing most of the votes. And unfortunately, even when we finally, as Republicans, got control of the House and the Senate and the presidency, sadly, we didn't do a very good job. But right now, the people are getting so upset with the current administration, it may be that the Republicans will get a boost in the arm next year, and that's a pretty good idea. I think if both parties stand for the same thing, changing leadership every so often wouldn't hurt a thing. But even if you get the two parties close together, a little bit of gridlock wouldn't hurt us either, where they just don't get anything passed. But in foreign policy they scare us, in economic policy they scare us. But after 9/11, it was a disastrous time, and there were reasons for us to be deeply concerned, and I don't want to belittle that. But it was also an opportunity for the people who love big government. They like to take advantage of these issues. The Patriot Act was around a long time before 9/11. They never could get it passed. But once there was a crisis, boom, the Patriot Act, over my strong objection, was passed within 24 hours without really debating the issue. Now, the Patriot Act did not give you more liberty. You cannot solve the problem of terrorist threat in this country by continuing with our foreign policy. If you think you can, then there's a misunderstanding about the nature of what we're doing. And I think the best analogy I can use for trying to get people who disagree with this idea to understand this. What if another nation was stronger than we are and they sent their troops to our land? What if they looked different and had a different language? What if they happened to be Chinese? What if they came over here and said they're protecting the oil in the Gulf of Mexico, and they come in and they occupy our territory and they want to teach us how to live? Different religion, different language, and different color, and different philosophy. The only thing I can say about that, if that happened, it sure would make certain that